very much, Mark, and as always, great to listen to you, President. And while I can't be with you in a few weeks' time, I know that you will lead the commemorations and celebrations in your own country, and I wish you well with that, because I know that you've very much embraced all that has been powerful in the change in your own country and what you've done to see that develop, and the time you give to ICD as well. But you have been a great source of inspiration to all of us in Europe that want to see change and peace and compromise and progress. And I know that you will have some great days to celebrate that, and I wish you well. I will the far end of China at the time. Only for that I would be so more glad to be with you, and it's far nearer to Dublin too, I can tell you that, and I've been there. I just want to really say two things. I spoke earlier about the 25 years that we have witnessed this night, and that hundreds of thousands of people just a few kilometres from here are witnessing, and maybe later on in the night maybe go witness as well and see some of the fun that will be out on the streets. I just want to take two points. What I want to say about my own involvement in kind of where we've been in 25 years and the European dimension, and as Mark has invited me to say a bit about the conflicts in Ireland. We've heard so much during these last few days of excellent contributions by so many prominent people from different walks of life about a conflict and the art of compromise and trying to make progress. And is it a black future, or is it a bright future, or are we on green or red lights, and all of the problems we see around us, whether it's the Syrian problems and all of the people who have died, and into the fourth year of the conflict there, the conflict that we see on our TV screens every day in the last few days since we arrived here, of heightened tensions in Ukraine, what President Gorbachev said today, and I'm sure you've seen that on some of the TV stations, and also the problems of the Middle East that are not so much on the airways now, but were the highlights a few months back, and all of the other conflicts. Sometimes it can be quite pessimistic and sometimes sad. But today, I think here in this city of Berlin, we celebrate what have been hugely positive developments. And I was a member of the Irish government as Minister for Employment, Minister for Labour, Social Affairs, back at that particular time. And the Irish presidency took over on the 1st of January 1990, and I had the great honour and privilege of going to the early meetings where, and sharing the meetings with ministers from various departments were meeting for the very first time. And it seemed extraordinary to me, as a fairly long black-haired guy at that time, to be able to go meet all these men and women who, even though they were only living a few miles from each other across Berlin or different parts of Germany, had not met and had not ever been together. And the powerful symbol it was in those early discussions that the European Union were able to hold, and to be able to see what way we could help. And then the bigger and more powerful meetings that I spoke about earlier, about Chancellor Cole with the Prime Minister of Ireland then as President of the European Council, getting together to try and find a way forward and to move ways forward. And as I said earlier on today, you'd find it hard to find anybody around Berlin or around the world today to say that there was not disagreement about the unification of Germany. Of course there was. There were members of the European Council who remain nameless because they've passed away. That limits it, doesn't it? Who were totally opposed to it, who were fearful of it, who even went to President Gorbachev to see if he could help to make sure it wouldn't happen. So, strange times that we lived in then. And I think, we've seen the progress. We've seen the powerful Germany. We've seen the concern that there was then in the European Council of whether this would be harmful to Europe, whether Germany would go one way and Europe would go the other, and Germany wouldn't care about Europe. It was the opposite. Germany helped so much to bring Europe together, and as the new countries looked to join the European Union, Germany played a big role. They had their own huge financial difficulties that Helmut Kohl had to deal with. Foreign Minister Genscher that had to try to move things together. And I think that huge success, without going through that history lesson of 1989 to 94 or beyond, all those changes that happened. And then, I know Lawrence, who spoke just a while ago, the Prime Minister of Malta, he will remember all of the negotiations that took place from the late 90s on to bring more countries into the European Union and to bring so many of those countries of Eastern Europe in. And the huge support there was, and the huge ambition there was, and desire there was. And sometimes I wish the new rising generation would, I know that all of the radicals of today will be the conservatives of tomorrow, and the more radicals they are today, the more conservative they'll be tomorrow. That's the way it happens in politics, the way I see it often. But I understand the view. But if they could understand the huge change and they understand the huge progress that has made during that period, and we remember back again when it was the Irish presidency in 2004. Again, I was lucky enough when Malta joined as well, Ernst, but that day I think was the Eastern Europeans. You joined with Cyprus, but it was all the Eastern Europeans that was their big day, the day of welcomes, when in Dublin they all joined. And again, that a huge determination there was to them to be part of the European Union. And needless can I say, particularly to the German people here, the enormous role that Germany played to enable that all to happen. And I think for all those reasons, Germany should be commended and thanked. Often criticised for this, that or the other, but I think their huge role of stability and progress that they've helped over the years. And all those countries that have joined, and of course followed by your own country, President, later on, and other than Croatia, who yesterday were speaking here. I just want to say all of that unity of purpose in Europe that happened. On the other side of all of that conflict, 25 years ago in my own country, the conflicts continued. The violence that had really started in 1968, around the time of the Prague invasion, and that had gone on unabated. It started as a civil rights movement based on the long history that we've had with our near neighbour in the United Kingdom, turned into violence. And at this time, 25 years ago, we were about 3,000 people had died, tens of thousands have been injured, huge amount of people had left the island. A whole young generation saw no future and moved away to different parts of the world. It was looked at maybe around the world as Catholic and Protestant, but it wasn't so simple. It was the division of nationalists and Republicans on one side against loyalists, Unionists on the other. One side loyal to the concept of a united Ireland, to one Ireland, and the other side loyal to the British monarchy and to British rule in Ireland. And that conflict had tens and tens of thousands of people who suffered because of it. I just want to say what, sometimes the Irish question is held up because it was one where we did bury differences. It's not easy to bury differences. It's not easy for people to hold the handship of friendship together and try and move forward. But Tony Blair and I and earlier prime ministers, where we didn't, the late Mrs. Thatcher and Ireland didn't get on too good, to put it mildly, but sometimes we did. Sometimes we didn't, most times we didn't. But as time moved on, I think we tried to pull ourselves together and to make progress. And back in 1998, when Tony Blair and I signed the Good Friday Agreement. We were the two joint signatories of that agreement. It was to find a way and to find new institutions where people could work together, where it wasn't a democratic system as we know it, where there was a government and opposition. Because the institutions in Northern Ireland, there really is no opposition. Both sides work together within an executive and they share power based on their electoral number. The First Minister is from one side, the Deputy First Minister is from the other side. But for now, for 16 years, they have, not perfectly, but worked together to try and bring peace and harmony, and more than anything else to make sure that the bombing and the killing, that the sectarian assassinations, that the displacement of people stopped. And while there's always the fear that there are minorities who would want to bring trouble back, which there always is in the end of conflicts, it is possible to make peace. Isha Rabin said you make peace with your enemies, not your friends. Sometimes in politics you have to make them with your friends, but anyway, that's the art of politics sometimes. But it's a good idea to try and make it with your enemies most of the time. And we were able to do that. And I think one of the good things about the Institute of Cultural Diplomacy and what they are spreading and what they're endeavouring to do is to use their good offices, not to lecture, not to try to intimidate, not to force people, but to try and bring people together. And that's what's happened here in these last few days. And yesterday I thought, Mark, it was good to see, I don't know if they're still in the room, but it was good to see the clash with Turkey and Cyprus. Sometimes it's good, you know, to have that and to be able to say where we were. And we're talking about the walls. By the way, I have to say, talking about walls, we've still 50 of them in Belfast. But we changed the names rather than calling them walls that divided people. We now call them peace walls. And tourists in their thousands come to see the peace walls. I'd like to tell you I could take them all down tomorrow, but it's slightly difficult to do that because the people who live on either side are fearful of the coming down. You can't work around them very well, but hopefully someday we'll move to seeing them gone forever. But I think what ICD are doing is to try and give a platform for people. And hopefully as time moves on, that people will be able to come together more and share views and pull people together. I had a unique experience in Northern Ireland. My parents were Republican. They came from the anti-British side. My father was absolutely and totally anti-British. I'm not sure what he would have thought of me by the time my political career was on because of some of the people that I dined and worked with. It certainly wouldn't have been his cup of tea. But anyway, I half convinced my mother that it was okay. But you were bringing people together that had totally opposing views, that literally hated each other. And that's not to exaggerate that term. I remember once negotiating with the leadership of the Loyalists and the Republican, as you know them, the IRA and some of the other organisations, and Red Hand Commandos and Ulster Volunteers Force, Ulster Defence Regiments. And I was in the room with them, about 10 of 12 of them. And they said, just to open up the meeting to get the temperature right, they said, to the best of our knowledge, Prime Minister, you're the odd person out in this room. And I looked around the room and I saw that they were all men. They didn't put me an odd person out. Everyone in Northern Ireland was, in those days, in negotiations, are white males, as we were talking about earlier on, which isn't a good idea. The women actually were the sane people in Northern Ireland, thank God. I used to love to see them coming, gave some bit of semblance of life to it. But I said, well, come on, tell me, why am I the odd man out after a break? And they said, to the best of our collective knowledge here, and we're from all sides, you're the only one who hasn't murdered anyone during the Troubles. Well, that reassured me greatly. But it is necessary in conflicts to sit down and to try and to find ways and listen and work at it. And I must say Tony Blair was a great partner He was a great partner in whatever arguments about conflicts elsewhere, but in Northern Ireland he did what British leaders had not done for hundreds of years, and was prepared to compromise and try and make ways forward. So I think, not to go on any longer, Mark, but I think there is, out of all these things, as we look back over 25 years of the wall, as we look back in 25 years of what's happened in Eastern Europe, President, we've seen the progress that's been made, we've seen the development, we've seen the great changes that have happened where people are working together, where countries are working together. In my youth, it would have been unthinkable to be able to work and deal with the countries of Eastern Europe. It just wasn't possible. Maybe the kind of people that would have come to Ireland from some of these countries would not have been to our liking in those years from different regimes. But now the world is this village that we speak about. And that's the great thing about cultural diplomacy. And where the word cultural diplomacy may not have been used all of the time, what we all practice, regardless of what profession that we're in, I think it is wonderful. And today we heard the issue about maybe it's by pulling all the cities of the world together. Well, I beg to differ on that. I was the mayor of my own city. I think pulling the cities together would be as useless as me talking any longer. I think you have to pull sovereign governments together. I think sovereign governments are necessary. People have a right to change sovereign governments. If you don't like to change governments, well, you can go out and vote. Some of those mayors seem to go on forever, actually, in my experience. So I think it is a good thing that cultural diplomacy allows us to develop all of these things. And I think ICD is a good forum, and I think we can build on that. So I think from the difficulties of Europe to now the great successes that we celebrate tonight, where in my country, where we've moved away from horrendous and horrific violence that brought multiple deaths, to where we can see our progress to a future. We should look on all the wars that are around us, not as something to just put our heads in the sand and say it is impossible, but to say this is an opportunity for us to work on. And I would like on a future occasion, Mark, where we challenge some of these things in these conferences and bring people who have different divergent views, because unfortunately there are not many platforms where these people can come together and where they are challenged in a respectful way. So, ladies and gentlemen, do enjoy the night of celebration. Mark always runs a good party, and I know that he will have food and drink to keep us all going well past the time of the wall came down, which was about 12:30 in the morning. Thank you very much.